Hello there! Today is bread day, and I know it's bread day because we're almost out of bread. So my goal for today is to make a whole bunch of loaves, some that we can eat fresh and some that can go in the freezer for another day. So in here I have 1.5 cups of warm water and 2.5 teaspoons of yeast, and we'll just let that sit for about 5 minutes and then we'll get going with the rest of it. Alright, so we've let the yeast get all nice and frothy. I've actually left it here for longer than normal, but it will be fine. And so now we're going to add the other ingredients. Alright, so we're going to tackle the sourdough starter next. This has been in my fridge for like a week, and it has some of this. Yep, you can't see. This has been in the fridge for about a week. And I don't know if you can see that, but there's some, there was some residue that I just poured all over the floor, just for you. Anyway, I'm gonna pour that out anyway, because that's what makes it sour, and my family doesn't particularly like sour, I don't think. I don't know. I just pour it off, so we'll do that now. Alright, I got the rest poured out in the sink this time, and now I'm going to measure 1 cup into the yeast. This recipe works just fine for discard, which is what this is. And then since I'm making more than one recipe, I'm going to feed this in a little bit, and then the rest of them will be even more light and fluffy than this. Hey there, I was thinking about it, and I actually can't tell the difference between when I use my discard and when I use my active starter. And I think that's because I usually let the discard, when I use the discard, that loaf, I let it rise a lot or longer than I do when I use my active. So I think you can get the same result with both. You just have to let the discard sit a little bit longer because it's not quite as awake. So just thought I'd throw that in there. Anyway, back to the video. Alright, next to go in, this varies from the recipe I'm using, which is from Taste of Lizzie Tea. But I'm going to add some malt powder because I have it. And it helps it be even more fluffy. It helps the yeast. This is Diastatic malt powder, not milk powder, which is important. Now I'm going to check the recipe, see what else we need. Next is 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. When I'm using the discard sourdough starter, I do add in the baking soda, but when I'm making some more batches later on and the sourdough discard or the sourdough starter is all fluffy, I don't always use the baking soda just because it's already gonna be nice and puffy. So I'm just using this because it's cold and it needs a little bit of extra help. We have honey. I think it's 1 tablespoon. Yep, 1 tablespoon of honey. Make sure you drop it on the counter, that's important. Measure it super precisely. The sugar essence needs to be precise. Alright, lastly, before we get to the flour, is the oil. Alright, so I need a 4th cup of oil. Clearly don't have enough left, but I have another jug. Alright, 4th cup of oil. Alright, I'm going to give that a quick mix. Now for the flour. I'm going to be using this bucket I have down here because I'm almost out. Alright, so 4.5 cups of flour. 2, 3, I have a big bucket of flour down here. 4.5, and I'll fill this up in a minute, but the next step is to just mix these together until they're just combined. It'll be like a shaggy dough. Then we'll wait for 10 minutes and come back and knead it the rest of the way. So that's about what it should look like. A really shaggy dough there. And let it set for 10 minutes. So while we're waiting for the dough to just rest for a bit, we're going to feed our sourdough starter. So I have about this much in there, and I want to at least double it with both flour and then with water. So I want at least this much amount of flour. Let's see. So that's 1 cup. I think it's going to be about 2 cups. Alright, so that's pretty good. So 2 cups of flour, and then I'm going to use filtered or distilled water. For 2 cups of water. Then mix it together. Alright, you know what? This is looking a little bit thin, so I think I'm going to add just a smidgen more flour. This is the consistency right now, and it's just a little bit thin, so I'm going to add some more flour. Let's do 1/2 cup. There we go. This looks a lot better. It's a lot more what I'm after. Nice and thick, but not too thick. Alright, we're gonna let this rise and bubble all day. Bread day kind of extends to bread days, and so I'll at least have 1 loaf or whatever for today. I think we're gonna do hamburger buns today because my kiddos want hamburgers, so that's the plan. Here is what the dough looks after it's rested, and now we're gonna get started kneading it. You really want it to start pulling away from the sides. That's what you're looking for. And then do about 4 to 5 minutes of kneading until it's a really soft dough. Look at this lovely dough that we have just finished. It is beautifully soft. Do you need a mixer to knead your dough for this recipe? No. You can do it by hand. I'm just not patient enough to make it come out looking like this. So we're gonna take this out of the bowl and get it out of this mixer and get it into a different bowl because I want to be able to use the mixer to make another loaf if I can get around to it today. So let's take that. So I actually do not put any more flour in than the original recipe calls. I know most other recipes for bread says to add or to knead it with flour, or to maybe coat the bowl in flour, or when you're gonna shape it later to put flour down, but I don't. So this dough is just so soft and pillowy. I am going to spray it with olive oil. And we'll just let it rest until it doubles in size. So that's what I'm looking for. In the recipe it said, it just calls for this to sit for like 20 minutes. But my house is never super warm, so I definitely need more than just 20 minutes. And I think it also helps it be even lighter and fluffier, since my family likes bread to be literally as light as a cloud. So, see you back later. So I'm gonna use this bench scraper to cut this beautiful stuff in half. I am going to divide this into 12 for hamburger buns. Alright, we did it. Okay, so now I'm going to take the rolls and I'm trying to make the top nice and stretched out and flat, so I'm shoving the rest of the dough in through the bottom. And then doing this hand motion. Then I'm going to put that on my tray. Now that I have greased it. Yes, these will be different sizes. So these rolls or buns have been sitting here for a bit now and they look ready. So I have my oven preheating to 400 degrees. And then I have this that I separated into a nice loaf, and it's rising at the moment. So we will throw in the rolls when the oven is preheated. I thought we would also take a minute to check in on our sourdough starter. So it's starting to look a little bubbly, which is awesome. So we want it to go get so it's all bubbly. So that'll be a little bit, another few hours. And into the oven they go. So they'll be in there for 30 minutes or so. And here they are, the beauties. They've been in the oven for a little less than 20 minutes. And they look gorgeous. See? Well, they're hard now, but they will soften up when they start cooling down. Alright, here are the rolls that we made. They're all soft and puffy and delicious. So we'll be using them for burgers, I guess, tomorrow. And then we have one loaf that came out and it looks so good. It's also very soft and puffy, so we're really excited to eat that. And then I'll be spending probably tomorrow making the rest of our bread. And what I do is I will just package it up and put it in the freezer because it does so well in the freezer. And then I don't have to keep making bread all week. I can just make it in one big day, I guess, and then we'll have bread for a while. It actually doesn't take super long. It's pretty hands-off, but I hope you give it a try because it's delicious bread. So I will see you in my next video. Bye!